This one was really Sanji's chapter to shine, and I just love the way that he just took apart this Wanze, man. Oh, so good. So good.
One Piece, Chapter 372, Plastic Surgery.
Oh boy, this is just getting so good! Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you, without having a heart attack, another review on the awesome and lustrous tale that is One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with really being the Zoro chapter. Zoro ultimately defeating Captain T-Bone and the Rocket Man being on its way, heading straight towards, at a greater speed than the Puffing Tom, towards the Puffing Tom at Enies Lobby. The Puffing Tom, we know, of course, is where everybody is fighting in various spots. Franky on the roof fighting Nero, Sanji in Car 4 fighting Wanze, and Nico, Robin, and, of course, trying to hide Usopp now to not be discovered by CP9. So, the chapter, though, left off there, obviously, with the Rocket Man and Luffy and Zoro and company. The chapter picks up over here, and we get it. It's divided into two parts. The first, Franky fighting against this Nero, and Nero reminds me of, like, Puss in Boots, is really what he reminds me of. He actually hisses at him and everything else. They wind up, they're kind of going at it and what have you, and for the most part, nobody is getting an advantage on the other. Nobody's landing a blow, and I think that's really my main problem. That's my main issue with it, I guess, is that so far, either the CP9 characters have either just unconditionally just whipped the ass of whoever they've used these powers on. This guy, of course, only knows 4 of the 6 powers. He doesn't know the finger pistol yet and whatnot. He knows the Tempest Kick, the Moonwalk, the Shave, the Paper Art. But anyway, I think it's seeing several pages of action where nobody connects at all. To me, is just completely just off the wall and unrealistic. Like, I like it when you hit somebody, or maybe they block it and then they hit back, and you're trying to go and get the upper hand on the person. But this is very much just a cat and mouse game. Franky goes and uses the nail gun. This guy goes and jumps off and does the moonwalk and jumps in midair. And then he goes and does a Tempest Kick on Franky, but it doesn't hurt him because Franky's invincible from the front. What winds up happening is Franky goes and fakes him out, like he's going to go in and leave to go to the next car, and turns his back on him real quick, and then he's going to go and try to okey-doke him, is what he's going to try to do. And Nero goes, and Nero actually suspects that, and he winds up pulling out his pistols, and what it is Franky tries to fake him out, but it doesn't work. Nero winds up pulling out his pistols and shooting him in the back, where we know Franky, of course, is weak, right? So he sees that that's Franky's weak spot, or Franky's weak point. So the next thing that happens, and I thought it was funny, is Franky goes and he's like, yeah, now I'm going to use this. It's called Invincible Franky, and he just lays down spread eagle on the car, the top of the train car, with his back to it, because obviously he's impervious from the front, or at least from what we've seen, impervious to most normal and I guess advanced attacks, because the Tempest Kick doesn't hurt him or cut him. But anyway, it's kind of funny, So you get this Nero over there and him. Again, it's kind of like a Mexican standoff. Nobody's really going anywhere with it. Nobody's getting the advantage as of yet. Franky then goes and he's just like, have you ever heard of a centaur, And he's like, oh yeah, isn't that the horse, half horse, half man thing? And Franky's like, yeah, Franky a centaur. And all of a sudden his legs go and separate from the front and back, right? So he's got 4 legs now. But the funny part is that instead of a centaur, where normally that body is at the front part, and then there's there's the front legs, and then there's the back of the body, the ass end, and all that stuff. Franky's is backwards. So Franky's body is at the back part, right, with his head and everything else, and he's got this centaur, the legs in front of him and everything. So nonetheless, so it winds up pretty much just leaving us at that point. Franky is going to attack. We're hoping that he's eventually going to get the advantage against this Nero over here, and I certainly hope so as well. So the second half of the chapter for me was the most entertaining. It's the fight between this crazy Mad Hatter character Wanze and Sanji, and they're fighting, going at it. Sanji, of course, in the last chapter finally decided to pick up and start using knives, and he's cutting off various parts of this ramen noodle kung fu suit that he has, right, that he's fabricated for himself. So anyway, he's got him. He's taken out his fists and everything, and now he's just basically looks almost like an onion, and even calls him an onion. He winds up going and trying to, and he keeps telling him, just give up, dude. Just give up and let me go, right? And Wanze is like, are you crazy? I'm not going to give up and let you go. And then he gets to a point where he starts insulting Robin. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to let you go. That's a dangerous prisoner. She's a lowlife. She's a devil. All these mean things, right? And Sanji, number one, you ain't talking no shit about no women, right? And then you ain't talking no shit about his crewmates. but especially his sexy woman crewmate. You don't talk no shit, you know. So that we know that Sanji's getting angry. But anyway, he tries to use his legs to come at him to, you know, to do a move on him. And Sanji goes and starts talking about what you have to do when you're cutting an onion, you know. And he gives this whole detailed description. And I love how he works like cooking into his fighting. So he's chopping this dude's legs as they go by, and then winds up going and slicing his suit off, you know. And now the dude has no armor and everything else. And he goes and he's like, and he goes and he pops the knives back in the holders and what have you, you know. And the guy in the first, you know, Wanze is like, oh man, I got cut and this and that. And he's like, oh no, wait, it was just my suit. I didn't get cut. And Sanji's like, no, you know, cooking knives are not for cutting. Now that I've taken care of your suit that was made, his whole thing, his whole caveat was that, you know, it was okay because he's cutting up food with it, right? So it was okay to like kind of bend his rule a little bit because he was cutting food up. But now that that's done, he doesn't need to stab the guy, right? Now he'll just whip his ass. So anyway, this Wanze is going to go and keep coming at him, and he goes and winds up pulling some knives out and tosses them at Sanji, right? Sanji ain't having none of that, man, and I like this. This is the first part that Sanji does. He's like, kick loyal! And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right because I'm not French or of French descent. I do know a couple of people who are French, but so I'm sure someone will correct me on that. But this is the first one, which I thought was great. Smashed his face in over there, you know, which is something that I've been waiting to have happen to this guy for several chapters now. So then, you know, as it's kind of going back and forth, but again, more in Sanji's favor. Anything that happens now is Sanji just overtaking the fight, you know. And he even tells him at one point, keep talking and I'll rearrange your skeleton, you know. And then he goes and he's like, and this guy goes and he says a bunch of stuff about, that's what it is. Everyone knows she's a twisted devil. That was the icing on the cake for Sanji about Robin. And then in the next one, we get plastic surgery shot. I mean, he just jacks him up, you know, kicks him right in the face. And then the part that's funny is you go and you see him, he rearranges his face with this plastic surgery shot, and now the dude actually looks normal, right? Actually looks pretty, it actually kind of looks like a woman, but anyway, doesn't have that weird Mad Hatter look on his face. So then he's like all pissed. I was like, give my uniqueness back, you know, give my individuality back. But Sanji, I love this. He's like, first you called what you did is you made, there's 3 things that you did wrong. You've committed 3 crimes, right? First, you called yourself a cook in front of me. Second, you wasted food. And we know that's a big no-no in Sanji's book, right? And third, you insulted our crewmate, who just also happens to be a woman. That's like the 3.5 one, you know? Maybe the 4th one, but they just put that one in parentheses. That's right. So anyway, and then he said, shut up, you jerk. Give me back my individuality. And then, you know, Sanji's like, just let me by, dude, and give up, you know, just give up, right? So this guy goes and pulls out Ramen Kung Fu Secret Attack, Poison Pasta Cutter. This giant-ass freaking poison knife, right, that looks like a sword over here that he just happens to be holding in front of his crotch area. Anyway, no correlation to anything sexual there. But the point is that this dude is like, if I cut you once, you'll die, you know? And Sanji's just like, you know what? I love the look, too, that you get from Sanji over here. And I apologize to be popping up some of his pages. Last couple of chapters, I just really enjoyed a lot of the artwork and the way everything is gone. So anyway, then we get this decoupage. I mean, he just jacks this dude up. He is done with him. Sanji is completely done. And what I love about the way it has and the way it's drawn is the guy goes, because they're in car 4, mind you, right? As far as I remember, car 4. So they wind up going, and he kicks him 2 cars up ahead into the CP9 car. Because you got Lucci just sitting there, you know, he's just sitting there maybe taking a nap, reading his book, whatever, you know, so checking his iPad, he's texting somebody. You got Hitori, you know, up there. And this dude just, can you imagine that? Just sitting there, and all of a sudden some dude just comes flying through the door from 2 cars back, you know. And everybody, you know, Khalifa, Blue Nose, like, what the fuck, you know, I just want to go back to my bar. Kaku, you know, is if I only had a brain. Anyway, I don't know why I was thinking about that, but Wizard of Oz stuff. And then you got, you know, of course, Lucci just sort of has that sinister look on his face. But for the most part, they all look pretty surprised, and the shit is about to go down over here. So I really hope that, my hope is that, you know, Robin can be talked into actually helping and retaliating back, and between Robin, Usopp, Franky, if he hopefully overtakes Nero in some way, shape, or form, or at least temporarily disables him, and Sanji, can at least hold these CP9 guys off until they get to Eni's lobby, or until they can regroup, or at least until Luffy and them can overtake them. Maybe Luffy can get on the car, maybe Zoro can get on, I don't know. But, man, awesome stuff, and just thrill a moment, balls to the wall, action. Absolutely love it. My chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is which fight have you enjoyed more thus far? Have you enjoyed the T-Bone versus Zoro fight, which wasn't even really a fight, but I guess you can put that one in there. The Nero versus Franky fight, obviously a CP9 member, even though he's the newest one and only knows 4 of the 6 powers, he's still a pretty formidable foe, and he looks like the Puss in Boots guy. Or of course, the Wanze and Sanji fight. My personal favorite so far has been the Wanze and Sanji. It started out pretty lackluster, in my opinion. It was kind of just gross, some of the shit he was doing with the ramen and everything else and blowing it out his nose. But it turned into a pretty fun, entertaining fight where it was like Sanji fighting like this Mad Hatter type guy. And then obviously out of the three of them, it's been one of the longest running so far too. Of course, the Franky and Nero one is going on as well, but the Sanji one started a chapter prior to that one even happening. So, let me know what your answer is, though. Which was your favorite fight thus far? Leave that answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
Sanji says to remember to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my other channels.